Welcome to the first in a series of videos for O Level Computer Science, and we're looking at Python programming. And in this video we're going to be looking at variables. We move on to if statements, strings, maths, for loops and while loops, turtle graphics, random, lists and arrays, functions, text and CSV files, and to Kinter graphic user interface. But this first one we're going to be looking at variables. So welcome to the first video. In this series we'll be diving into the exciting world of programming with Python. One step at a time, as we've just seen. Today we're kicking off with fundamental concepts, variables. Think of variables as containers that hold different types of information, like numbers, text, or even complex data structures. But before we dive in using variables, there are some important things to keep in mind when writing your Python programs. Okay, Python is case sensitive. So please pay attention to every detail, including the capitalization of letters, so be sure to use the correct case in your code. If you call a variable using only lowercase letters, but in your code you've called it using uppercase letters, then it won't work. Okay, quoting text values. When working with text in Python, it's essential to enclose them in speech marks. However, for numbers, you do not need to use special symbols. Okay, naming variables. When you're naming a variable, steer clear of using reserved words such as print or input or turtle. These are already used by Python for specific tasks. File naming. Just like variable names, be cautious when naming your Python files. Avoid naming such as turtle, input, and names print and input. Okay. And editing programs. Once you've saved a Python file, you might want to make changes later on. Remember, simply double-clicking won't let you edit the code directly. You've got to open idle first, and I'm going to show you that a little bit later on. Okay, so what's a variable? Well, as we said before, a variable is a storage box, a storage where you can store numbers, anything at all. So numbers, words, letters, all sorts of things can live inside a variable. But generally, we will stick to numbers, letters, words. Okay. To make a new variable in Python, we use the assignment operator, the equals sign. So age, the variable name age, equals the assignment operator, the value 21. So age equals 21. This is the value 21 stored inside age. So 21 stored inside the variable called age. Okay. Let's have a look at program 1, and I'm going to go into Python for this. Assigning variables. I've assigned a variable called x, a variable called y, and a variable called z. X has been given the value 5, y has been given a string value hello world, and z has been given 3.14, pi, okay, decimal number. Here we've got some basic data types. An integer is a whole number, okay, a string is a text value, a sentence, or just a word. Okay, and real is a decimal number, something with a decimal point. And we're going to print these out so you can see them. So if I go over to Python, remember, I've got to go into idle to be able to do this. Okay, and I'm going to go File, and I've already created this. I'm going to File, Recent, and I'm going to be assigning variables, the first one. So here is the code I've been given. Now in idle, if you're not happy with the way things look, what we can do is go into idle, settings. At the moment it's set in courier, as you can see here, but I can change this to anything I want. For example, Dimitri, which is a bit like Grand Theft Auto, and I can change the size of the font, a bit bigger, click apply, and there you can see I've changed the font. Okay, I'm going to go back and just put it back to how it was. So also what you may have noticed is the red text, has a hashtag in front of it. The hashtag is not part of the program, but it's not part of the program in the sense that it won't be called, it won't run inside the program. But what it is a comment, basically, to enable you to put notes into other coders or to put to your teacher to tell them what the code is actually doing. So, for example, this code here, we've assigned the values to the variables, and this code at the bottom, we're going to print out the values. So, when we run this code, run module, it's got to be saved, but as you can see here, it's going to reduce this down a bit. I've assigned values to x, to y, and to z, and I've printed out x is the value 5, y is hello world, print z is z. So what I can do, if I go back into this and change a value, for example, x is now 1000, and I run this code, make sure it's saved, it now changes that value of x. So that is what's happening there. I've mixed basically a sentence here, I've put it in quote marks, so I'm printing x's, basically this string, print this string, but I've got to separate that with a comma and then the actual variable itself, okay, in order for that to work. And as you can see, as I mentioned before, a string has got to have the quote marks, but numbers, even real numbers, or in this case float numbers, do not have to have quote marks. Okay, so that is program 1. Program 2, okay, this time I'm going to assign the initial value x, and as you've just seen, I'm going to change that value, and we'll have a little look here. So back into Python, I'm going to go File, Recent, and I'm going to open 1b, Reassignment. Okay, and I can do this many times. If I take this, paste it, let's put this 1000 again. So x has been assigned the value 5. I'm just going to run this module so you can see. Yeah, x has been assigned the value 5, but then its new value has been assigned 10. Okay, and then its new value again has been assigned 1000. So if I change the value of x later on in the program, it will update that value. Okay, x is no longer 5, and again it's no longer 10 because the final value that's been put in for x is 1000. So that's how we do reassigning values. Okay, just going to close that. For the third one, we're going to have a little look at variable operations, in this particular case arithmetic operations, maths. Let's go back to Python, File, Open Recent. Okay, as you can see here, I've given a variable a equals 5, b equals 3. Okay, they're my two variables, a and b, and they've both got numeric values. Sum result, basically add them together. The difference result, take one away from the other. The product result, multiply them together. And the quotient result, divide one by the other. Okay, so again, these are now variables. Yeah, sum result is the value of a plus b. So that has been assigned, sum result, this variable has been assigned this value. Yeah, basically adding two variables together. So if I run this, you can see when we add them together, 8, difference is 2, the product is 15, multiply them together, and then the quotient, we've divided a by b, and we've got 1.6 recurring. So that is how we use math, basic maths, to assign to a new variable. Let's have a little look at the next one. Program 4, string concatenation. So this time I've got two names. Okay, two names. First name John, last name Doe. So let's have a little look at this one. Okay, in this case, as I said, first name is John, last name is Doe. We're concatenating the strings full name. Yeah, so another variable called full name. So I've got three variables here, first name, last name, and now full name. But full name equals the first name plus, and I've just put a space in here, yeah, a blank space, plus last name. Okay, so now when I do print full name, it should print out the first name joined by the last name. Let's run. And there we go, it prints out full name, yeah, full name. If I change this program here, and I call this Jill, okay, and now I run it, it will still do exactly the same thing because I've given first name a new value of Jill, but I've not put it in front of this here. Okay, so if I now move this, I'm going to get this and I'm going to copy it and put that underneath. Okay, and run it again. Again, it wouldn't work because I will still need to put this. I still need to put this here before that will work. So now I've reassigned the value first name, and now I've reassigned the full name to include the first name being Jill. So now when I run this program, okay, it will print out John Doe at the very beginning here, and it will print out Jill Doe at the very end here. Okay, good, good, good. So final program, the user input and variable usage. Okay, now I'm going to take an input from the user. I'm going to ask them to populate these two variables by asking them to enter the name and asking them to enter their age. And then I'm going to use concatenation to add it all together like so. Hello, name, you are, age, years ago. So let's have a look at this in Python. Okay. So this time we've got name, input value, age, input value, enter the age, and print out all of these. Okay, so if I run this, run the module. First of all, it's asking me to enter your name. Now the program will not move on until I type in a name. Then it's going to ask my age, or my word. Yeah, and then it will print out the program, hello Robert, taking that variable, you are 50 years old. Yes, I am. Now the problem lies with this, I'm going to come on to this a little bit further. If I wanted to do a calculation on this particular age, I am setting the age as being just a string value. By using input, it is just a string value. To get it to be an actual number, I would need to say age equals int input to change it into an integer, yeah, a base 10 number. But because there's two brackets at the beginning, I need to put two brackets at the end, like so. Change these to commas, and then we're okay. The reason I've changed it to an integer is if I want to go print you will be age plus 50 in 50 years time. Okay, so now run module. Okay, your name. You will be 100 in 50 years time. Hello Robert, you are 50 years old. You will be 100 in 50 years time. Okay, you can see I've got some double space in here. So just quickly, if I take out hello, that's okay. But here, let's take out this here because the commas provide this space. So here again, if I take that out and just one final time, run the module, and let's say Jill is now the user. Okay, and Jill is 35. Hello Jill, you'll be 85 in 50 years time. Well, isn't that nice? Okay, so that's a little introduction to variables. Now I'll give you a series of challenges for you to have a little go at on your own. Okay, so here are the two challenges. First one, mathematical calculation. What I would like you to do is create a Python program that prompts the user to enter 4 different numbers. Okay, it subtracts the third number from the sum of the first 2 numbers. So it adds the first 2 together and then subtracts the third number. Then multiply the result by the 4th number. Okay, and then display the answer as the result is answer. So whatever this sum, whatever happened in terms of calculating this sum. Have a little go at that one. And then number 2, bill splitting. I want you to write a Python program that asks for the total cost of a meal. And then it prompts the user to enter the amount of tip they want to leave. And after that, inquire about the number of people splitting the bill. Calculate each person's share, including the tip, and display the amount each person needs to pay. So, pause the video, have a little go at those 2 programs based on what we've learned so far in this video. Once you've done that, we can compare notes because I've done my solutions straight after this, so you can have a see at how I would tackle this. Okay, so good luck, and I will see you on the other side. Okay, now we're in Python. You can see I've done another way of sort of commenting or blanking out text. I've copied the questions in, but I've used 3 quote marks to close off this part of the text. So this is in the Python program, but it will not run. It's not part of the code. So underneath, I'm going to solve the first one. And as we saw, we need 4 different numbers. So I'm going to label my variables num1 equals, and this one is going to be an int input, okay? And then I'm going to give it a message, enter the first number, okay? Enter the first number, and we close that off. Remember, because it's got 2 brackets here, it needs to have 2 brackets at the end. So I've created a variable number1, and the user is going to input their first number. What I can do now, I'm going to get this and I'm going to copy it, because remember we need 4 numbers. Okay, so num1, num2, num3, and num4. and this is going to be enter second number, third number, and fourth number with the U in it. So we've entered the 4 numbers, subtract the third number from the sum of the first 2 numbers, then multiply the result by the 4th number. Display the answer as a result in answer. Okay, so let's get our result, and the result is going to equal, and this is where we need to use BODMAS, BIDMAS. The result equals, and I'm going to use num1 plus num2 minus num3, okay, but then I'm going to times all this, and this is where we're going to use the star key, times it all by num4, okay, so that should give us the result. Now this variable is called result, yeah, so I've used my BODMAS, print, again, another print instruction, and this time we're going to print, in brackets, we'll put a little string in, the result is, and we'll remember to put the comma in, and we're going to put result. Okay, so if I run this now, so I've got my 4 variables, I've created a sort of a sum using result. I suppose I could, it says the result is answer. Well, okay, the result is, let's call this answer, just to be right. This one's called answer. Remember, capital, everything must be lowercase because that's how we're working. So now when I run this module, okay, enter first number, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the result is 5. That's how that would work. So that is number 1, 2 plus 3 is 5, 5 minus 4 is 1, 1 multiplied by 5, the result will be 5. Okay, so that's the first one done. Now what I can do, if I remove these 3 quote marks, that now becomes part of this top one, and this one is not in quote marks. This one is quoted, this one isn't, so I need to make sure this is closed off, I'm just going to close, get rid of that. Okay, now all of this is in text that won't be used in the program. So let's look at bill splitting. Remember, we're splitting this between so many people. So in this case, I'm going to use something new which we haven't used before, but this is where we're talking about real numbers, about decimal numbers. So I'm going to go total cost, and I can use underscores in my variables, but I can't use spaces. Total cost equals, and this time I'm going to use float, so a person could put in a decimal number. Float input, okay, and we need to find out what was the cost of the meal, okay, and again must be 2 brackets because there's 2 at the front. Tip amount equals, again we're going to use float input, what, enter the tip amount, and then this time the number of people, let's do this, number of people equals, now number of people can't be a float, it must be an integer because it's a whole number. Okay, we can't split a person in, divide a person into 3 parts. Yeah, we can't decimalize a person. It's got to be a whole person, a whole number. So input, again, and then how many, don't forget the quotes, how many people are splitting the bill. Let's try and work out the total. We're just going to leave a space. We can leave spaces between lines. Total, inc, tip, yeah, we're going to add these 2 together, equals, so that's my variable, total including tip, equals total cost plus tip amount. Now, it could be quite useful to copy, if I did this, to make sure that it's the same variable as it is as we're putting further on. Just to make sure everything is correct. And then each person pays, again, nice long variable. Let's get the spelling correct though. Each person pays, my variable there, equals, let's copy this, total including tip, yeah, and this time I'm going to divide, yeah, total including tip divided by the number of people. So again, I can grab that, copy it, okay, and then finally we just need a print message at the end. Again, I can leave a space, print, each person must pay. Let's put a comma in to separate it, and then we're going to use this final thing, this final variable at the end, copy that in, pop it in brackets. So let's see what happens. So we've got the total cost, the typical amount, the number of people, and we're going to split this bill. So let's run this, run module, click OK. What was the total cost of the meal? Well, it's an expensive meal, £145 and 88 pence. Okay, and the tip was about 10%, was about 15. Okay, how many people? We're going to have 4 people eating the meal, so each person pays £40 and 22 pence. Okay, or whatever currency you want to be working in. We'll do currency and things in later videos. Okay, so that solves those 2 problems. I hope you had a go yourself, but that's the end of video 1, so thank you very much indeed, and I will see you next time. Please continue to ask questions, leave your comments, hit notifications, and please subscribe. And finally, if you wish to buy me a coffee, I'd be truly grateful. Please visit buymeacoffee.com/learning zone. Thank you very much indeed. See you next time. Bye for now.